Hello, everyone. This is Frank with Teachly University. And in this lecture today, we're going to be discussing how to unlock our potential through the power of visualization. And this lecture, I think, really is probably one of the most important ones that I've made so far. And I think influential, even for me, that has been a self learning experience because I think visualization and our ability to harness this skill, to visualize and see what it is that we want can really help us make some major improvements in any aspect of our lives, whether it's in our relationships, our finances, our careers, and even perhaps help us improve whatever issues or challenges that we're experiencing in our own minds. Visualization is a powerful tool because we're utilizing and harnessing our imagination. And unfortunately for many of us, and I'm guilty of this as well, that we don't use our imagination in a way that is constructive. We use our imagination that can sabotage our ability to utilize our true potential to live out our best lives. So, to quote Scott Barry Kaufman from his book Transcend, The New Science of Self Actualization, he says that within the humanistic psychology framework, the healthy personality is considered one that constantly moves towards freedom, responsibility, self awareness, meaning, commitment, personal growth, maturity, integration, and change, rather than one that predominantly strives for status, achievement, or even happiness. So, how to utilize visualization and the power of our imagination is to understand why we want to use it in more constructive ways. And ultimately, the reason that we want to use our imagination in more constructive ways is that we want to see ourselves move towards and enter an ideal state, which is one of freedom and self awareness and growth. Happiness is simply a side effect of achieving these ideal states. What we yearn for and crave for is autonomy, the freedom to be our authentic selves. And Abraham Maslow, who I've referenced quite often, in his hierarchy of needs, suggests that the pinnacle of human experience is authentic creative expression. Not so much happiness or joy per se, which are just side effects of living this in this ideal state, which is when we are our authentic selves. To be our authentic selves, then, is to visualize and see and imagine living out in this ideal state or visualizing the kind of person that we want to be. And through the power of imagination and visualization, and I'm going to use the two words interchangeably, that we can make profound changes and improve not just our external environment and circumstances, but we can improve the way we think. So Norman Doidge, in his book, The Brain That Changes Itself, this is a great excerpt from his book. He says that one reason we can change our brains simply by imagining is that from a neuroscientific point of view, imagining an act and doing it are not as different as they sound. When people close their eyes and visualize a simple act, such as the letter A, the primary visual cortex lights up, just as it would if the subjects were actually looking at the letter A. Brain scans showed that in action and imagination, many of the same parts of the brain are activated. That's why visualizing can improve performance. What is Norman Doidge saying here? What he's saying is, I think, what also Dr. Joseph Murphy said in the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, that the subconscious mind does now know the difference between what is real or imagined. And a lot of high level athletes, some of the best professional athletes, and I think Aaron Rodgers comes to mind, where I think an interview that I saw of his not too long ago, he suggests that one of the reasons why he performs so well is that he can visualize and see the way he's going to perform before a game. And I think a lot of other high level athletes and successful athletes use this technique of visualization. They see what they want to do before it is actually done. So the subconscious is now the difference between what is real or imagined. So how we want to use visualization then is to imagine what we want in the present moment. For example, we want to imagine seeing ourselves as being the ideal person now. Imagine the person that you've always wanted to be and that you are that person right now. Imagine and visualize you acting a certain way, acting in certain conversations or situations. Or perhaps if you're an athlete, performing out on the field, whatever sport that may be. Or maybe that at work, you can visualize yourself making a great speech in front of coworkers, your boss, clients, etc. And what happens often is that when we utilize this skill and improve upon it, we can get in the habit of developing new insights that we never have experienced or recognized before. Because in order for visualization to work, we should not try to force an outcome or force this process on us. And this was a mistake that I've made. And this is something that Norman Doidge also suggests, is that when imagining and using visualization, we want to reduce the effort whenever possible. The use of force is the opposite of awareness. Learning does not take place when we are straining. The principle should not be no pain, no gain. Rather, it should be if strain, no gain. So this is why willpower can be a double-edged sword and I don't think is very effective. Rather than we don't want to force an outcome. We want to create an outcome by visualizing and living in the end. Living as if what we want is already here now, that we are already in the ideal state now. And whatever it is that we wish to manifest or desire, it is already in the present moment. And we do that by imagining as if what we want is already here. Say, for example, if you want to make a certain amount of money, say you want to make $1 million in the next couple of years, imagine you receiving this money for your services rendered. Imagine the zeros or the amount of money in your checking account. This is why I think vision boards, can play an important role in this process, where you want to have something that you can refer to on a daily basis to remind you that what you want is already here now. And that by visualizing this, the subconscious does now know the difference between what is real or imagined. And we can already begin feeling as if what we want has already come true. And we do this enough times, this can subconsciously change old mental patterns, old ways of thinking that were going against our self-interest. We can thus then develop new ways of thinking that can help change our habits and our actions, that can propel us towards where we want to go with less effort or strain. And this is the power of neuroplasticity, that our brains can in fact change, that we have the ability to change for the better. So then neuroplasticity is the property of the brain that enables it to change its own structure and functioning in response to activity and mental experience. But in order to change the brain, it depends what we impress upon it. So when we continue to think and act in the same habitual ways over and over again, it is unlikely that we're going to be able to change the brain or make more constructive, positive personality traits that can help improve our lives. This is why self-awareness, and is what Scott Barry Kaufman suggested in his excerpt that I read to you earlier. Why self-awareness and freedom and responsibility are so important is that you must take responsibility not just for your life, but for your own brain and what you choose to think about. And you have the ability to control what it is that you're thinking about. It isn't necessarily easy, but it is certainly doable. But it does require some effort, not strain or force, but taking the time every day to meditate, to journal, to disconnect from the outside world and go within and imagine living in your ideal state, in your ideal world right now. We're not waiting for something outside of us to change us. We are becoming the change we seek. And that starts with imagining and seeing what we want to see brought forth into our lives. So once again, to quote Norman Doidge, he says that we have seen that imagining an act engages the same motor and sensory programs that are involved in doing it. We have long viewed our imaginative life with a kind of sacred awe as noble, pure, immaterial, and ethereal, cut off from our material brain. Now, we cannot be so sure about where to draw the line between them. Everything your immaterial mind imagines leaves material traces. This really was, I think, a very profound statement, I think, in this excerpt from Norman's book, where each state alters the physical state of your brain synapses at a microscopic level. Each time you imagine moving your fingers across the keys to play a piano, you alter the tendrils in your living brain. This is why what you choose to think about, or to quote Earl Nightingale, that you become what you think about, what you consistently focus on and visualize and see in that mental studio of yours can not just alter your brain, but can alter your life. Your personality shapes your personal reality. So it makes sense then that to alter our brains, to think better, to improve our mental processes, and overcome negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, depression, etc. It's important that not that we fight these emotions, but accept them for what they are and become one with them, while at the same time visualizing and seeing what it is that we want. Negative emotions are important because they tell us what it is that we want. We must pay attention to these negative emotions, not suppress them. Remember, as I said, we don't want to force this. We want to learn. That's why learning and educating yourself, watching lectures like this, reading books, etc., can help develop new neural pathways that can help you improve the way you think and visualize, etc. So to quote Shakti Gawain, she was one of my favorite authors, and is her from a book, Creative Visualization. She says that when we create something, we always create it first in thought form. A thought or idea always precedes manifestation. And this goes back to what Norman Doidge was saying, that now we cannot be so sure about where to draw a line between them. Everything your immaterial mind imagines leaves material traces, to quote Norman. So a thought precedes manifestation. And if you choose to consistently think about a negative circumstance or idea, that will manifest itself in some way. Remember, the subconscious mind, depending on what we impress upon it, has to express itself in some way. So if we choose to indulge in negative ideas, use our imagination to worry, become anxious, and visualize negative circumstances, that will manifest itself in some way into our lives through negative experiences, less opportunities, where life seems like we're just standing still. So then the purpose of creative visualization is to connect us with our being, to help us focus and facilitate our doing, to deepen, expand, and align our having. It is okay to have desires and to want, but when our desires enslave us, that's when this whole process can fall apart. The purpose of visualizing then is so that we can tap into our deeper selves and use our higher mental faculties to become something more. But more importantly, that we begin to live in the present moment now. We're not living based on the experiences of the past or worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, or where we're waiting for something outside of us to be in our ideal state. We are living in our ideal state now. And when we live in our ideal state now, that is when the magic happens. That's when you almost become childlike, that whatever you imagine seems to be just brought forth into your life in some way. You think of something and it comes true in one way, shape, or form. You're in the zone, you're in this state of flow where life just seems to happen to you. It reveals itself to you in many ways because you're not trying to force, you're living, you're creating in the present moment. So in creative visualization, you use your imagination to create a clear image, idea, or feeling of something you wish to manifest. That is the best and most simplest way to define visualization. And when you visualize, you don't have to have such a clear picture. This is not a perfect process. It's okay if you don't know necessarily what the ideal circumstance of what you want is going to look like. But just playing around with this, taking the time to visualize and see new horizons and new possibilities without worrying about how they're going to be brought forth, you then begin to automatically reshift your focus towards what you want and how you want to live your life. And using your emotions as leverage, where you begin to feel the wish fulfilled and feel as if what you want is already here, where you feel like your dreams have already come true and that your life is the way you've always wanted it to be right now. But this is dependent on how we pay our attention, or where you pay your attention to, or what you choose to focus on. Once again, a quote Earl Nightingale, where he says that you become what you think about. So choosing your thoughts wisely is very important. So to quote Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi from his book, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, or Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, he says that attention is like energy and that without it, no work can be done. And in doing work is dissipated. We create ourselves by how we use this energy. Memories, thoughts, and feelings are all shaped by how we use it. And it is an energy under control to do with it as we please. Hence, attention is our most important tool in the task of improving the quality of experience. A profound statement from Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, where he says that attention, what we choose to focus on, how we control our energy, can determine our life experience. And that's why I believe entering these states of flow where we're in the present moment, immersed in what it is that we're doing, and we're focusing on what we want, not through force, not through strain, but just becoming and living out in the ideal state, then that is when we can improve the quality of our experiences in almost anything that we do. Not through force, but through creation, where we create with little concern for the distractions of the outside world. And that is the biggest challenge that we all must overcome. There's plenty of distractions out there with social media, our cell phones, the internet, the 24-hour news cycle, etc. There's a lot of negativity out there that is designed to get our attention. So we must put away these distractions and become much more intentional with how we think and what we choose to see and visualize. And when we live our life with intention and feeling as if the wish is fulfilled, that is when we can achieve these optimal experiences and unleash our true potential to live out our best life. So thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you next time. Take care.